Ma jim den den de jin xiao ban zha zhu. Yang dao ban zo bia san jie ri ba dang xia su den. De wa ri xia ban ji den qian ba ji wen di bia ka lo ju. La na me ba la da me nan jie den ba san ji shum den. Bei jia wa xia jian du ba la cha zhen. Xue de jiao su xi wen den ba jim den den di xian xiao. Zha zhuan ba yang dao ban zo bia san jie ri ba dang xia su den. De wa ri xia ban ji den qian ba ji wen di bia ka lo ju. La na me ba la da me nan jie den ba san ji shum den. Bei jia wa xia jian du ba la cha zhen le xue de jiao su xi. Den ba jim den den di xian xiao ban zha zhuan ba yang dao. Zo bia san jie ri ba dang xia su den ba de wa ri xia. Ji den qian ba ji wen di bia ka lo ju la na me. La da me nan jie den ba san ji shum den den bei jiao. Xia jian du ba la cha zhen le xue de jiao su xi. 康在干年做交通在沙县的那公办的不，俺的节点的那小交通在这开发叫那啥子，那么到公安交通所上嘛一些叫做设计很多，插班节点是那面跟公布去年叫那啥子，前脚点把前面单位是3多招啊叫那啥子，对这件的是把什么今年没天天叫那啥子，公布突击节点把他们这件表的嘛。 说那么原来叫做人的现象了，是吧？他们对下车完全给外面装的，这对他那么说就关心就是叫了啥？春天这边老年的喇叭到哪着的，先给他们原来的给对那些啥？对我这样没事先给我不送说，让给3年用做的天天上街的嘛，干嘛让人妈买到就买这个去，没让老的见到过的学校那么的这个。 说那么的，他们这些把也可帮他们渐渐长的，搞到拿到西边老这边西边说，这完全把人说。
To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata in all the world, supreme guide of beings retained. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata in all the world, supreme guide of beings retained. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the long gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata in all the world, supreme guide of beings retained. Teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who arise then I prostrate, with pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with the qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one who justice I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, sublime, pure reality, to that Atman which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. a star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp,
an
an
illusion,
illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from motionless suffering of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jono Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Davin Jesu Jebe Sonam Ji and Rola Benja Sanje Rubush Sanje Jono Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Davin Jesu Jebe Sonam Ji and Rola Benja Sanje Rubush Sanje Jono Zoje Jono Chanju Bado Dane Jazu Davin Jesu Jebe Sonam Ji and Rola Benja Sanje Rubush.
I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Gyutuma geve zawa nama chume soba sobe rabdo jembo sonam je teran nam je shi peche sambo nam je treba tsen nam je medo jeba juyo remba tumo ton nam midimba meba tebe meba nam ngombar gawa shirab si jembe nama tom nam nam jeba meba simje nam je je tema chanchu semba nam je jeba pabe kaza nam je jeba nyangan de deba chonje nam jeba nam je tebe ishe bado meba boba sam jembe jeba sonam rataba nyanyemba kuje tabe chobe jeba kutsumba meba deba daga ma Soda Venyava Magava Sumevata Damadeva, Tungana number two, Pumota number two. Kamnanda Medema Geja Namadama, Divana Shidajiva, Yonson Tomata number two. Siva the Juba Chuva Geva Ishion Zuza, Deva Namajumba, Tadachula, Sanjay Jumdendi, Ishela Neava, Yangana, the Vandameda, Yanda Vanija, Simja Tamjana, Sibasala Juba. The Dania Sanjay Jumdendi, Jokushiva, and the Yanda Vandamasu. Tamation the Toma Geva, Brother Geva, Toma Geva, Johansson, but Sindrus, Manjapa, Yonsu Zoba, Yonsu Taba, Yonsu Chama, Yanta, Nembe, Tuchaba, Nevratim, Detona, Tenuva, Cavan, Soso, and the Ribachum. Jumdendi, and Navasum, Chudua, and Nevratum, and Yavrachum, and Zobe Chajun, and Rivachum. Midumba Major, Divada, Temba Yuva, Jabo, Tevachim again, and Levrachum, Ribachum. Chambrushu, Timbrushu, Temaja, Charger, Sonam Beji Shin, Beji Shin, Yun Sojuan Chimba, Jimena Zuju, Kunduan Jimena Zuju, Chembo, Kangi, the general Jumba, Chimba, Tomba, Tadu, Giovanni Jishin, and Mozobe, Sanjaman, and Getambata, and Charles. So we are on the page 427, 427, right? So last Sunday we discussed on the how these non-Buddhist schools, so their view of Atman as a permanent, is big. Started from the Samkhya school, and then gradually, Vedanta schools, Visasika schools. So all these schools, remain the same view, and then, they change some attributes on the Atman. So all this non-Buddhist school, so view the person or the self is something that is independent and So so independent and the permanent nature. So because it is independent, therefore it is permanent. Because independent from the body, so it is not born like body. It is independent from feeling, but this Atma has no change. The feeling has changed. Feeling can be born and die or disintegrate. So Atmas, remain unchanged. And your perception may changes, your emotional may changes, but yourself, Atma, is not changing at all. So therefore, it is a remain independent. So the best of their what they, the best of their kind of the reason. So why there's Atma, the permanent, in the permanent nature, because they say always is, it is, so in the Hindi, in Sanskrit, it says ajanman, so it's unborn, It is not born with the body, it's not born with feeling, not born with the perceptions or the emotions and thoughts. So unborn. So therefore, all this, the body, feeling, perceptions, the emotions, the thoughts, which are perishable. So Atma is something remain different from the five aggregates. So it is unborn, so therefore it is permanent. So then sometimes we use that kind of Atma may not exist, is unborn like a barren son of the barren woman. It's also unborn. Rabbit horns unborn. Human tails not unborn. So why not? That why not you accept the permanent I is non-existing? So maybe I'll just read this maybe. Since all the various attributes of such self as proposed in one treatise, right? Treatise, after another by the Tirthikas undone. Tirthikas are undone. By this logical proof that it is unerased, which they accept, none of the attributes of their self remain tenable. So samkhya, it is permanent, and they say it's a unit, a single unit, and pervasive, and it's all everywhere, and it's by itself is single unit, and it is permanent. And then Vasasika says it is the consumer, and additional, there's the consumer, and it is the agent. It is the one that is actor. It makes you talk, make you walk, make you think, it makes you feel. So it is the kind of the not only is permanent, it is the main actor. So all the attributes themselves remain. None of those attributes remain attainable. So thus, no self separate from the aggregates exists. For there is no apprehension of self apart from the aggregates. So this is, I think, yeah, that's the kind of, saying that in the non-Buddhist school, Atma has to remain independent from the aggregates. So therefore, it is not born, it is permanent. And it is the one that is the Atma is the one that for Atma, your body act, your talk, you think, and you act the positive actions, negative actions for the Atma. So, and also Atma is also going to, experience the consequences of that. So, kind of, it's very permanent, and it affected by every actions. So normally, once we say it's unborn, it is nature. Its nature is the permanent, and the unborn means it cannot be affected by any cause and condition. So this is because this logical proof that it is unirisen. So they, quite use this reason, unirisen. So which the non-Buddhists themselves accept. So this reason is something that is well known in non-Buddhist school, unirisen. I think that makes them kind of sometimes when they Shiv devotee, Lord Shiva devotees, and their best reason he is pure and perfect is they always use Atman. It's unborn. Something unborn is something unique for them. I don't know. Has undone all the various attributes such as self as proposed in one treatise after another by the Tirthikas and Samkhya and Vasastika and others. So none of the attributes of their self asserted by the Samkhya and the Vasastika as described above remain tenable. So they should be refuted in this way when it comes to dealing with all the proponents of the self Atma. So this reason being arisen, and the example, son of barren woman, how eliminates the nature and attributes of the self conceived by these schools. So the reason they use is very, not very valuable, not valid. So unirisen is they think because of that the Atma or the self should be permanent. So unirisen is also used because of the unirisen, the Lord Shiva is permanent. So Lord Shiva is permanent, and he is the creator of all, planet and this inhabitants, right? So sentient beings, all of them. And then they should focus on that. Unirisen also includes son of the barren woman, rabbit horns, So on the one side of the unirisen is more closer to the non-existence.
Do these schools accept the classical dependent origination, like the older version, like the man standing on the can relies on that to be taller? Mm-hmm. Do they accept that type of dependence, or?
Yeah, I think normally they may use the language of the dependent originations, but dependence means now, samsaric beings are depending on the, Ishvara. Ishvara is not depending on us.
Right.
He is independent, So we need to depend on him. So therefore, we have to, we have to worship the Lord Shiva and Ishvara. And then, so, we have to depend on him. He's not dependent on us. So we worship. And by worshiping, there is guarantee that he, if you happen to please him, so he grants you some blessing. He also gives you the liberations, right? And then what makes you think that he can do all of this? Oh, he's the powerful, because he's unborn, And then you can also say, like Lord Shiva is unborn, my tail is not unborn too. Human tail is unborn too, right? So I think this is what they think, conceive with all these schools. Thus, no self separate from the aggregate exists. So now it's the commentary saying that thus no self separate from the aggregates, the body, feeling, perceptions like that. For there is no apprehension of the self alone by itself, apart from the grasping at the aggregates. So now reason is in our own standpoint saying that, it is not possible the self could remain separate, independent from the aggregates. Because, without the aggregates, apart from the aggregates, there is no way you can find the self. The yourself, I am, cannot be found without the aggregates, without the body, without the feeling, without the perceptions, without, So you have to say, oh, I am here, I'm eating, I'm walking, or I'm thinking, I feel happy, right? I'm thinking about, so that makes you existing. The existing of yourself is always, depending upon the activities of the aggregates or aggregates of themselves, without that. So that is the reason the self of the person is no independent from the aggregates. So no independent from the aggregates. The point here is this: if the self were a different entity from the aggregates, it would then have no relation with aggregates. So then it is independent, like apple and orange. Body in yourself is apple and orange. Your feeling in yourself is apple and orange. Totally two different things. So there is no relations. So something there's no relation at all, but this body is doing something every time it's doing something for the Atman, for the self. How can this possible? Because there's no relation at all. It is totally independent. So no relations with aggregates, since neither from logical relations would be possible. There's no cause and effect relations. There's no, there is no kind of, relations in the nature or, same kind of, Like for example, there's so we say, apple and orange has no relation at all, but the apple and one by one with apple relation with a general fruit, and orange also relation with the fruit, the general concept of the fruit. So that relation, what we call, is nature. You know, I think that's the nature of that. So in the nature, the fruit has many apple and orange. Therefore, apple and orange relation have the relation to the generally concept of the fruit. But apple orange has no relations. There's no cause and effect relations. There's no nature relations. So if the self of the person is independent from the body, so then they remain apple and orange. No relation, black and white, cow and horse. So there's no relation at all. And there's no cause and effect relations. So this is what I'm saying, that, since in that case, just one can apprehend the piece of cloth on its own without apprehending the vase. So the cloth and the vase, without touching, without referring anything with the vase, you can still identify the cloth, because the cloth and the vase are two independent phenomena. Self too should be graspable by itself. So without the vase, you can find that this is the cloth. Without the apple, you can find this is the orange. So in this way, since the self and the aggregates are different and independent, so like you can identify body without the feeling, without eye consciousness, without eye consciousness, this is the nose consciousness, the air consciousness. So in this way, you can, without aggregates, you can say this is the person. There must be some way you can grasp or apprehend, so the self without the aggregates. So that is not possible. So yet, this has never been observed. The fundamental wisdom says, Nagarjuna, it is illogical for the self to be different from the appropriated aggregates. Self to be different from the appropriate aggregates. It is illogical, for it's different. It should be, graspable without appropriated. This is not so. So, so it's like, if the self of the person is, could substantially, physically, remain different from the aggregates, and then it should be graspable without aggregates, by itself, And then also there's this Pumbutsinyan revenues. When it is totally different, and then there may be, it is not, maybe it's not right to say, or it's not correct to say, anything changes within the body, and then you cannot characterize on the self, right? If something, changes in the course, you cannot say the changes characterized on the cow. If something changes happening in the cow, you cannot characterize on the horse, because horse and the cows remain independent, you cannot say when the cow gives the baby, what a cow baby or cup? Calf, right? If the cow gives birth to calf, you cannot say my horse has given birth to calf, because it's cow and horse and independent. So if yourself and aggregate are independent, different, apple and orange, and anything that is happening here, you are eating, you are kind of hungry, you cannot say I am hungry, I'm eating. If your leg is moving, you cannot say It is not right to, it's not correct to say, I am walking, because I and the legs are two independent phenomena. So the phrase appropriated refer here to the aggregates. There is also following the further objections against non-Buddhist view of self. It's also unacceptable to be the basis for the being I, clinging for the identity views, is present even those unaware of such self. So it is also saying that, so that independent I is, when non-Buddhist school, they think in the reality, the I or the self is always independent. So this is the really, in the reality and generally, the I remain independent from the aggregates. Then, maybe non-Buddhist schools and some of the philosophical, philosophical people or philosophical thinker may think, because they're trained in that way, they're informed that way, they put the information in their mind, or the self is independent from the aggregates. But we should ask someone who's not trained, not learned philosophical, do they have any feeling? So I am independent from my body. I am independent from my feeling. So if they don't have, so the independent I is not, it is intellectually imposed or superimposed, philosophically superimposed. It's not in the reality, it's exaggerations. Because no sentient beings who has not, informed that program that they don't have any feeling of I remain independent from the body, independent from the feeling, right? So that's proves. So, the self or the person I am is remain independent and permanent, is untenable, is superimposed by, this, how's that? Misunderstanding, right? Misunderstanding. It is also unacceptable for this self that is said to be different from the aggregates to be the basis for the focus of being I. So, and also, so, being I, the clinging since beginningless time. For even in those sentient beings unaware of such self, independent self, as a conceived by non-Buddhist school. So that is to say that without grasping as self in such term, the identity views is present through tendency towards the clinging. So they do experience the world in the terms of I am and mine. This objection is not. Now this is saying that so now here we are refuting the self as independent from the aggregates. And previously in subject school, we say self do not exist substantially. So now Lama Zopa was saying these two repetitions are not repeating. The previous one is the line that it also cannot be the basis for the grasping at an I. Previously, it was substantially real self that was negated as the focus of the identity views. Now, the focus of the identity views. Here, however it is self, that is separate entity from the aggregates that is being rejected as the focus of the identity builders. The two things. Substantial I is not the, the focus media, it's the focus object. I think this term is also not really giving the word itself, not really giving clear understanding, the focus objects. So now you're saying, when we say, I am walking, I am eating, I am thinking. So that, so the conceptualizing that I am eating. So what is the focus object of that thinking I am, with activity of eating? So what is the focus object? And then what is the aspect of that, the conceptual? So then it says, Chandrakirti in Prasangika school says, the focus object of thinking I am with activity of eating or walking, the focus object has to be general I am. So I am is the focus object, and then how you bring that in aspect for clinging. So then says that aspect is, when the conceptualize I am, so then I appears to the mind that is something intrinsic. Right? So generally, yes, there is the I am, and when you cling, what it becomes, the generally existing. So which means when you cling to the I, so your thought is, knowing or conceiving I as it is, or it is the different. Your thought is not really conceiving or the perceiving the I am not as it is. So cling means you just make it something solid and concrete existence. So that's how you cling. So it's something that your mind is, attracted or drawn towards the I am. So then what is the general I am, how it exists? So general I am is nothing but abstract. It's illusion like existence. It is something that is a forest as a singular, it exists. A forest as a singular, it exists. Is conceptually, it is, it is through the impositional. Forest, a garden, a nation is as a singular existing. Existing in the singular is through, projections. So then the question is, what if a forest, a garden is not existing as a singular by projections? Then, what is appears whenever you think a forest, you have the feeling it's kind of some type of wood. So then the question is, if a forest that you're conceptualizing as a singular, if this is the real true tree and substantially it exists, and you also see that a forest that includes many trees in it, and physically there is no one tree that can that can include all the trees in there. So this is why a forest is conceptually imposed, projected, fabricated as a singular unit. And that fabrications, with that fabrications, how you see it, how you view that fabrications is, it is pervade all trees can include in it. So that is perfectly, it is a fabrication, fabricated phenomena. It's the nothing but imputational factors. So in this way, there's some kind of me that exists, exists with when I walk, when I talk. When I walk, I exist. When I talk, I exist. When I think, I'm existing. So so I that existing with walking, talking, thinking, and feeling, right? But we at this always we say this, two legs that is walking on the ground is not me. With that I am walking means with that I am walking. With this mouth I am talking. So you with means, is it like a cow and cow herders, cow with cow herders, right? Mm-hmm. So go with them. And then, bicycle and the riders. So with bicycle with the riders. Do you see yourself like bicycle riders? Do you see when you say, I'm talking with my mouth? Do you see you are actually physically exist with mouth? So if there is me physically, with the mouth, which means I am myself is another physical form which independent from the mouth. Right? Now when the person is riding the bicycle, the person is independent from the cycle. Now he is riding the bicycle. Is there me like a rider that makes me talk, makes the mouth talk? So if there is no me, so then, it is exactly like a forest that exists in singular, and that includes all the trees. So you hold the aggregates, the body, feeling, perceptions, all as a one, one whole combinations, one whole collections. So the conceptually constructed I am, I am as a singular. I am as a singular. So now for that I am, I walk, I think, I feel. So that I am is, exactly like, how you conceptually, constructed a forest as a singular. So which means the I am is, if you try to, if you try to dig into what is the existing I, and then it's the mental projections. It's kind of mental projections. It's the abstract. So, once you kind of convince that there's only one possible, it remain exist in the aspect level, kind of the abstract level, and its mental projections, then you cannot say it is substantial, it is solid and concrete, and it is independent, or it is inherent with something. So I think whole point, the main point is that the self or I am is it is some kind of illusion like existing. And then why is illusion like existing? It is conceptually, fabricated entity. And then how long you've been this, how long your mind is conceiving this, or how long your mind being keep, construing or fabricating this I am. Then we say from the beginningless. Life before life, life before life, So, and it's now, that is generally the existing I am as an abstract. And then what do you mean by, what does that mean by saying that, oh, I'm clinging I am? I cling to myself. Cling to the myself means now, when you cling to the myself, in the face of that clinging to I am, I become, more alive. I become more concrete and solid. So that aspect of the grasping of self is non-existing. The basis of the focus object of a general I am that exists relatively. Right. So the focus objects existing relatively, illusion-like, but aspect of the grasping a self of I am is intrinsic, independent. So that is, we are saying, we are refuting, the aspect of the grasping a self. We are not refuting the basis or the focus object of the grasping of self.
Geshe-la, could you give like a definition almost of aspect? I understand focus object, but what could we say or define that aspect as?
So I think here, so usually aspect we call, in Tibetan we call number, So the consciousness is just, how say, it appears in the form of that object. When the eye consciousness seeing the yellow, the consciousness itself, born in the form of yellow. So that's called aspect. So, so if you, for example, if there's the persons, maybe you're on the other side of the street, on the other block, I'm here, and between someone's coming. So focus object is same. You see that person, I see that person, but the aspect, I see coming, you see going.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the aspect.
Okay. I'm going to draw a picture for that. So
Yeah. So yeah. So usually that's good. Aspect has changed.
Okay.
The focus object is not changed.
Right.
The same person. So then in the same way, so non-Buddhist school, or the Buddhist school, or someone's not religious at all we focus on one thing, I am. So now that I am, it changes aspect, to the philosophical thinker, it is independent, independent, or it is a permanent for the non-Buddhist school. So for the normal people, I appears. Just, remain, it exists by itself. It has no character or attributes of being independent or permanent. It is just an intrinsic. It exists by itself. So then who has, then like Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, so they refute all these attributes that is exaggerated, and then what they come to understand is, the I that exists, existing is of the I is illusion-like, is the relativities. So that aspect changed to the Nagarjuna's mind, Chandrakirti's mind. For the ordinary, it is the real thing. It exists by itself. For the non-Buddhist school, the aspect is independent and permanent. So all of them looking at the same I am. Right. So this is why we need to say, what is the focus object? what is the aspect once you conceive them, you know. So this kind of, the language is itself is not very, you know, without, you know, without explaining, the language itself, you know, is not going to make clear. Because even in Tibetan language, we call mikpa, you know, mikpa, and the second number. So then again, there's another one, you know, mikpa means eye consciousness is focusing. You know, eye consciousness seeing the computer is the focus object. And what appears to the aspect of that is also the computer. There is no true focus in the aspect, it's a two different thing. So only it changes, you know, if my eye is colorblind, so then the aspect change. You know, some other person can see with color, I don't see with color. So the aspect change, focus same. So if just you are looking at computer is the focus object, computer is the one that appears to the mind, you know, is the aspect of that. So this aspect is very debatable in the mind-only school, and mind-only school thinks the aspect means aspect of object means is the consciousness. Consciousness.
Just conscious.
Yeah, just consciousness. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why the consciousness aspect is the kind of private property of the consciousness. And then says, do you think all consciousness has aspect? You know, and then the within the mind-only school, some accept, you know, without aspect, the consciousness can, you know, perceive something. You know, then says, for the eye consciousness, Sotantika school, the mind-only school, for the eye, Sotantika school, it says, for the eye consciousness to see things color, no need aspect. So almost now they're saying these people understanding of aspect is something mediation. Like, you know, say the based on I am, because my philosophy, my religion, my, you know, intellectual says I should be permanent. So then the aspect of the I am changed to me. So it's kind of projections. It's a mental projection, right? So the eye consciousness to see the color, no need mental projections, no need to go through the mediations. It is seeing, you know, the raw data is not going through the aspect. So this is, you know, some of the schools think this aspect is imaginations, mental projections. Is aspect is nothing but, you know, mental projections. For the eye consciousness, there is no mental projections.
This is mind only.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one seems, the Prasangika view seems a lot more solid in the sense of like, no, based on where things are, there is this interaction, and that is how that is validly formed.
Yeah.
Whereas,
so it is based on something that is generally accepted,
right.
but the attribute change
Right.
when you think differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that aspect is very, very kind of, you know, because the Vivasika school, Siddhantika school, they kind of think that, Vivasika school for sure, they accept that many of the consciousness, you know, no need to go through the aspect, without aspect. So it just, you know, almost like that directly they meet So there is no need any aspect.
Same thing with the Chandrakirti.
Sotantika school aspect is a little bit different. Sotantika school says aspect is not mental projection. Aspect is your mind is imitating the object. When your mind like this, when you see this, when you dislike or not like, you like whatever you like or dislike. So the mind is mimicking that object. So that is the aspect. So the eye consciousness see the orange color. Eye consciousness, don't see itself different from what it appears to. It is just, born in the form of that yellow color, orange color. Looks like yeah.
So aspect would be synonymous of a point of view.
Synonymous to the point of view. Yeah, it's kind of viewpoint. Yeah, it's a viewpoint. It how things, things appears to the mind different from others. We 2 or 3 persons focusing on one thing, one same thing, appears separately.
In different ways.
Yeah. So yeah, like so sometimes you look at the picture, human beings' pictures, and the other person finds this looks like my grandmother's. And then there's some kind of aspect changes to that person. And then this person said, oh yeah, like it's just female, I'm not sure it's old or not old. Right. So looking at the same thing, you have different tastes, So the aspect and the focus, and I think here we are trying to differentiate the aspect and the focused object. So aspect means something that is suited to the particular mind. So now here the example here is the focus is general existing of I am. Now this I am in the general that changes aspect when it apprehend by the non-Buddhist school point of view that that I is permanent, permanent and unborn. Right? So then the lower school within the Buddhist school, they think, I is some kind of existing within the 5 aggregates. Some says, the I is some kind of I am means is no different from the mental consciousness, no different from the continuity of the consciousness. So we are naming on the continued consciousness as I am. So this is the aspect change from their finding and their desire. Aspect changes. So and then this is why we need to discuss, because when the aspect is not same, not equally shared, so then others says, no, the self of the person is not permanent. It's not unborn. It is born. It's produced with the cosmic condition, And then says within the Buddhist school says, yes, I exist, and it is the impermanent. It's not a permanent. It is not independent from the aggregates, but the I exists within the continuity of consciousness. And some says, one of the Vivasika school, Nemapura says, this is 5 aggregates. The 5 of them are I am. So, the body is I am, feeling is I am, perception is I am. And then how about eye consciousness? Eye consciousness I am, ear consciousness I am, knows conscious I am. So then is a, does that mean you have too many I am? So somebody was, if you are the, when you start having the eye problems, then so there's one eye is almost, going to end soon. So in the hearing problems, that I am is going. Sometimes it's become too many I am. So in some it says, there's not too many, not 5 aggregates. 5 of them are not I am. It's not a person. The person I am is referring to the consciousness, particularly the mental consciousness. And then we say, if the mental consciousness is that is the person. And if I say, I'm eating and walking, does that mean your mind is eating and walking? So is your mind need to wear the clothes? Right? So there's some kind of, something not really fit, something not really, perfectly convenient. You cannot say, independent has a problem. And if you say every 5 aggregates, each of them is I am a person, and that is, again, is not really perfectly fit. And even saying the I means the consciousness, I means mental consciousness, that's still some, somehow there you can, like walking and talking and listening, how can you say that those are mental consciousness?
So Geshe-la, the focus object of the general I existing is what we're accepting. Generally there is, but we're also saying that aspect in which that general I, we are saying is the focus is changing, and that is based on that's accepted because of the continuity. Because we're not saying that. I guess what I'm saying is that the aspect changes and that is acceptable in terms of logic. We're not saying that the aspect is.
So we are debating, arguing on the aspect.
Right.
So how can you, conceive and imagine or interpret to you, the I as a permanent, independent. So logically, there is no possible of the self of the person is independent from the aggregates. There is no logic to permanent the self, the persons as a permanent, because it's constantly changing. It changed, with body, it changed with feeling, it changed with action, it changed with the consequences of actions. So how can you say it is a permanent? And it is everywhere. Without the aggregate, it's not possible to be found. It cannot be, I or the self cannot be found independent apart from the aggregates. So how can you say it is independent? So then we are arguing in that you are, you conceive and you create the aspect of the general I in independent and permanent. That is not correct. It's not fit with reality. It's not matched with generally I existing, where it exists. And then we also argue within the Buddhist school, some things that I means, because I am, the I cannot be found apart from the aggregates. Therefore, I must be within the aggregates. That is also not very reasonable, not logical thinking, So this is almost like, when you see the water in the mirage. So, the water that, appears within the mirage is not on the mirage, must be underneath. It's almost like that, So it's not necessarily, is not found independent apart from the aggregates, that does not reverse it's not necessary to be reversed. I should be found within the aggregates. So, yeah, a forest, a garden is also not necessarily, be pinpoint with one single flower or one single tree. You cannot say you cut one tree, say, or the forest is in here. You cannot say the forest is not there. So it's not independent apart from the aggregates, not within the aggregates. That is the Prasangika school. Not within the aggregates, not apart from the aggregates. And then what is left is, but depending on the aggregates, your mind has created as a single unit, I am. So that the nature of the existing of I am is the fabrications. So do you see any problems when we say the self of the person is nothing but fabrication? Yeah. So it's like if someone say, so if someone committed crime, the killing, so then says, so maybe he does not deserve that, how's that punishment because he did that for the illusion like I am. So he thought the illusion is real, and then he did that for the illusion I. So illusion I, if someone thinks the I that existing like illusion like, and it is unreal, so if someone interpret that, oh, that means maybe I am not existing generally. If you interpret that, now that is called annihilations. Annihilations. Yeah. So the illusion like is, if illusion like is not existing, and the illusion like is not existing, and you have no object existing, you have no, you have no eye consciousness to see things. You have no air consciousness to hear sound. But all of them is like illusion, like existing. The color, sound, smell, taste, textures. All kind of the sensual objects, each of them do not have any character or any essential to be existing by itself. It's just many things together conjure the existing of the color, sound, smell, taste, textures. So if this color is not intrinsic, but it exists, sound is not intrinsic, but it exists. So why not I am, not intrinsic, but it exists relatively.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So
right.
I think that's the real point. And then when you think of what is the benefit of that understanding, so the benefit of this understanding is it will kind of, right away reduce the intensity of your emotional level. You don't get obsessed, and fixate on something because you see what you are, what you're going to have, what you're going to see, what you're going to smell, all of them conjure by many things together. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so we, regarding the aspect, so, one of the minority school, one of the divisions of the minority school, they says, things that you see with aspect. Things that you see with aspect means, for them, it is already a mistaken, always every consciousness see things with their own aspect means every consciousness seeing something through their own interpretations. So, and therefore every consciousness must be mistaken with respect to their aspect. So this particular minority school also says, part of the omniscient has some mistaken. So Buddha has mistaken consciousness. So whenever you see things from your aspect, so it's kind of an aspect is you brought this meaning, So this is why in this particular minority school, I think they have very good detail, how the consciousness engage in objects. So there's one consciousness saying, like consciousness and object, like half eggs, the sliced egg, which means it perfectly fit, So there's half and there's half, two, sliced egg joined together. And some consciousness is like, object has the varieties, the consciousness, the subject has one aspect. And then it says, this is like, butterfly sees the flower. And the butterfly sees the flower in many color. So it's the many color. Or someone sees the butterfly, has the wings. So if there is one aspect in the subject consciousness, and the object is separate. So we usually call the, in Tibetan we have language, we call chasms, so many colors. Many colors, do you have any one name?
Multicolored.
Multicolored,
yeah.
So the consciousness, when you look at the butterfly, the consciousness sees the multicolor. So multicolor as one unit. Mm-hmm. But in the butterfly, each colors remain independent, different. It's not, it's not in one unit. So that's Gonga Chesa. This is not like, two, sliced egg. It's
So we say, what is the relationship between consciousness, aspect, and object?
Yes. Consciousness.
What aspect and the object?
Yeah.
That appear to the consciousness. How we know that we really are knowing the object of?
Yeah, we can share one common object, but you cannot share the same aspect. Aspects is uncommon, So we can share one thing's, common object, but there is no common aspect.
So aspect will be individual
yeah.
to the
individual.
Okay. So, and that aspect, it is projected by the mind, or how that works.
You mean aspect?
Yes. How we where well, how can we? I have to say. The aspect, the way the object appear to the consciousness, that is the aspect, how the object, that is something projected by the mind, or how that works?
Yeah, I think it's something to do with projections, but here I think it's also depending on the in the circumstance. For example, if you're looking at the flower, the rose flower, and normally when you see the rose flower, you may like it. But
Yeah.
in the particular moment, you are not happy. You are bothered, you are annoyed, and then you look at rose. So that aspect of favorable is gone. This just, this is also one of the annoying thing. The aspect change by some kind of, sadness, disappointment, and sometimes, things that you do not like, not necessary to be liking it, but at the time of your excitement. So that thing again, it changes aspect. It's something unique, something, excitement, something favorable, sometimes something like overly favorable. So the time, the emotion that is joined with particular consciousness engaging, there's many things, integrates with many secondary mind, right? So and sometimes it depends on the time. Sometimes, so depending, sometimes depending on the time, you are too rushed, and then things that you see now that's not that good. Sometimes you have too long leisure time. You're bored, therefore you have no favorable aspect on one single object. So the aspects always change because every time it's changing, because the mind constantly, changed by I think subconscious level, the habit level, and then in the circumstance and the immediate conditions. All the time it changes. Therefore, we cannot share the aspect, but we can share the common object. Right. So
if we can say that the aspect will be the individual version of what it is happening.
Yeah.
That you cannot share because it is just unique of the observer, of the person, that it is all the time changing.
Yeah,
because
all the time it's
all the elements. Yeah. Okay.
So I think. So if you go specific with the aspect, then maybe it looks like in the mind-only school, some of the mind-only school saying that anything that you see through aspect is mistaken. It's not wrong, but there is some mistake. It's not really fit as it is. So this particular mind-only school also accept even the omniscient has some mistake. It's not fully wrong, that it's mistake. So Buddha has to see it again. So I have to repeat once. So this is the focus objects. The focus for being I, clinging with since beginning last time. For even those sentient beings unaware of such self and conceived by the non-Buddhist schools, that is to say that without grasping itself, such term the identity view in the present through their tendencies towards the clinging. They do experience the world in terms of I am, I or mine. So this objections is not repetitions. Previous one in the line, it is also cannot be basis for the grasping of self. Oh, previously it was substantially real self. Now that was negated as the focus of the identity of view. Here, however, it is self that is separate entity from the aggregates, that is being rejected as the focus of identity view. So now the focus has to be exists relatively. So one might think that even beings ignorant about self characterized by permanence or unerasance and so on will still grasp such as internal self in terms of I because of their past habituations. Replies, this cannot be so, for it is only those whose mind have been influenced by the inferior philosophical tenets, who grasp a self that is distinct from the aggregates, who take this, right? Take this as the basis of their I clinging. So the root text says, those who have spent many eons in the animal realms and so on do not perceive this unborn permanent entity. So this is one of these examples, like animals, and the people who are not learned or not studying, not educated, not philosophical trained. So those do not, when they think I am, right? They all the time they do, right? They do cling on I am, but they don't think, they don't really feel that I am permanent and unborn. Yet one see that the people, who train in this philosophical thinking that I am permanent and unborn, probably they may have lost their respect their parents because they are not born from parents. So unborn and permanent entity. Yet one sees that I clinking operate in those being as well. There is thus no self that is separate from aggregates. So now they're saying that, the focus object of I am, the clinging to I am, that has to be existed generally. So therefore, the permanent I is not, it cannot be a focus object. It is the pure aspect that through philosophical influence. We can observe the presence of I, grasping in the sentient beings with no habituations to infra-philosophical tenets. For example, those sentient beings who have spent many years in the animal realms and so on in the past and have not turned away from the birth in the animal states do not perceive this unborn permanent entity postulated by the non-Buddhist school. One sees that I clinging to operate in those being as well, having recognize this fact, what discerning persons would cling to the self, postulated by non-Buddhist school as the basis of I grasping. So there is thus no self that is separate from the aggregates, none at all. The end, none at all, and the so on includes being born in hells and other such realms. So the people born in the hell realms and animal realms, hungry ghosts, so they are the most clinging on I am. They always think I am. What happened to I am? How can I be free from these sufferings? I. But they, even a moment, they do not perceive I am unborn and permanent. Not the animals, not normal people do not perceive themselves, their I, a person itself, as permanent and unborn. Right? I think people, I think 99% will not perceive themselves, as unborn and permanent. So this is purely the influence, superimposed through the, non-Buddhist school. So this is why they're saying the infra-philosophical tenets influence. Even the philosophical, they follow I is permanent and unborn. But I don't think they will say from their mouth, so I'm never born, I'm permanent. So if they say, I have father and mothers, I have brothers, sisters, and I did that, I'm going to do that. So how can you think that I am is permanent and unborn?
Is this the soul? Would this be what people conceive as the soul, or what travels from one lifetime to another?
So now they are more specific with the independent self as a permanent and unborn. And some people, think soul is permanent, eternal. Now this is also questionable. People who believe in soul, some people says when they are alive, it touched my soul. So it's like the soul is deep and not active yet. It is only come out when you die. So what kind of that is soul? That is a person or not a person? It only comes manifest when you die, or it only active when you're very so emotional. It's touched in my soul, so it's very, very, or they're just simply, expressing what they are, what they informed. It touched my heart instead of saying this, touch my soul. So they don't really see the difference, heart and soul. Or they're saying my right soul or the left soul, so the soul on the shoes. Maybe they have no idea. They just simply say this is the language, and this is the way of expressing. So this non-Buddhist school is very specific, So it is I am, which is different from, it's not the body, not the feeling, not the perception, not the emotions, not the, you're not the thought. It's remained different, independent from all of these five aggregates. So this is why the only best reason is unborn and permanent. So the Atma is never born, never change. So that's why they think. So they are more specific. They are not just simply expressing. So and some people in normal in India, even non-Buddhist school, who believes in non-Buddhist school or non-Buddhist, some people thinks Atmas only happen when you die. The ghost is Atma. So some people they think that. Now these are the philosophical train. So then I is the Atma. That I is never born, never die, never change. So then, and what is the many lives? The Atma is changing its body. He's leaving this body and going to get another body, and then move to another body. So now question is, when Atma goes to the next life, without dying or with having died, he goes. Without having died, he goes to the next life. This Atma which is going is a human being or non-human being. So when human being die and go to the God realm, this human being is Atma, and without having died, he went to the God realm. And then, God realm. And with the God body, there's the God being. The human being came to that, visit this God body, there's two self. So, another reason is,
You can say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because I have that spontaneous way of I think all this problem comes when we try to understand the reincarnation. We at least it happened to me. It still happened to me that you need like something to move from. The way we understand it, it is something has to stay there, moving from one life to the next one. You can call it the mind, you can call the Atman, you can call the I, but it is, I don't know if it is me or it is the Western people, we have a difficulty to understand how reincarnation works. If there is not some kind of entity, you can call soul or something that moves that from one to the next one, to the next one. Like we need like something substantial that is going to receive the karma, that is going to move from one body to the next body. It is difficult to understand it to understand without that kind of intrinsic something solid that it is moving, that leaves the body, like the soul or the ghost or the mind, Atma, whatever you want to call, and boom, go to the next body. That is why what for me it is that way of thinking make me difficult to understand what you are teaching. What you are teaching, what it is always there fighting that let's call primitive idea of how it works. But I think it is my all the time this problem that I know it is in the background, that explanation.
I think the continuity through cause and effect. So it is very kind of. I think it is very evident the continuity of the cause and effect, so that we can see. I think most of the people has witnessed the continuity of the cause and effect, like tomatoes, oranges, So we have so many things, continuities. And sometimes the continuities, there's a big gap, So Los Angeles, in the mountain, the grasses, and during the summer, burn, burned by fires, everything destroyed. And then the winter time, the rain,
and all this from that seed, the grass come back. Those grass are, without, we cannot say without continuity, without having seed. So even the seed has, that long, under, how's that? Under the how's that?
Snow.
Yeah. So it's something that is buried within the soil for a long time. When meet with condition, the rain, and then comes back. So you see, some continuous, not necessarily every moment is happening at the time. And also you scientifically think that, like for example, in the physics, from the physics view, there is no solid thing, hard thing. It's just space, right? Space and energy. And space and energies, and then the mass collection of the molecules and atoms. So in the reality, from the physics perspective, what we feel and what the physics found is different. We feel solid. When I hit on the table, there's something, my hands cannot go through. There's something stopping. So, in reality, so the elements, like two kind of magnet opposing, pulling each other. So like that, so we get, so that if there is some kind of energy which can perform the mass, the collection of the molecule and the atoms. So the atoms and the collection of the atoms, the molecules, when they're destroyed or die, cease to exist. The energy still has the potential to collect more molecules again. So now consciousness there is no such consciousness. The function of the consciousness is to perceive the upper hand, to reflect, to keep the object, the image of the object, or to engage, to apprehend the object. Without the energy, there is no such consciousness can have the function of perceiving and apprehending and keeping the image. So in the real, the consciousness is one, one aspect or one kind of the part of the consciousness is the energy in the consciousness. So the energy can collect many atoms and become the mass collection of the atoms, the particles, and then destroy it, and then this energy has so many, driven by the habituations, the imprints. So it is again and again it's collecting, and the things that collected and destroyed, it continues to collect. I think that's the one we think. Really think there is, when we think about next life, going to next life, we think there's something died and stand up and move somewhere. There's no physically going to next life. It just destroy here, collect again. And then you have the form of the human being, and you have a human drum to see, human life to live. If you collect in the form of the animal realms, you are in the animal realm, you have an animal life. So there is no physically, in the energy level, there is no such thing as moving, traveling. So I think this is, it's not easy to really convince there's something that, live this life and create another life. It's not really, there's no, I don't think there's a, very, reason or the logic that really gives you this clear understanding of that. But we can exercise of those continuing the cosmic conditions, and the body means the collection of the atoms, and the collection of the atoms is, you see the difference. Collections of the atoms in the body, collections of the atoms in pot. The pot, when you make clay pot, so there is also a collection of parts, atoms in there. So those collection of atoms, there's no such thing in the pot to hold, to collect, to put together. So first, once you made the pot, the physical form, and that contains the atoms, and there is no such thing that could sustain the atoms in it. This body, there's the energy that collects the atom. It has the power to sustain. It has the power to destroy. In how's that? In this, any time. Sometimes your emotions, the anger so much that can destroy yourself, and that this can damage your heart and the lungs, and it cause more illness. Right? Sometimes too greedy and obsessions. So this energy is also right now is destroying, sustaining, the balance. Everything is doing it emotional. So there is no such thing. The atom is similar to there in the pot, but there is nothing happening in the pot to destroy, to sustain. Depending on the weather, depending on the condition. If you keep, put outside in the sun, and the sun may destroy it earlier, or if you shoot closer to the water, and the water may destroy it. Otherwise, within the pot, there is no such thing to destroy, to sustain. This body has it all the time. So this, in the Tantrayana, this is, how there's, descriptions, in the mind, in your mind, when you elements. So they always says, when you die, element destroy from earth to the water, water to the heat, heat to the wind, and then final space. When you're born, first space and the wind and heat and the water and earth. So when you build the body from the space and the wind starts, when you process of dying, the earth first destroyed. Earth to the water, water to the heat, and the fire, fire to the wind, wind to the space. So which means there's some kind of what really drives the element, what really, who is the, how's that? It is not like human being born like we are not like a coconut and a banana. So we're only born in a certain season. It's not like that, right? So the banana and the coconut at a certain time, orange at a certain time born. So because they're depending on the weather. So here, the sentient being, human being, particularly born through the developments and dependent origins, craving and grasping, planting, fertilizing the seed, process of becoming, from the force of the process of becoming reborn. But when people may think, so the dead body is not a person. That body is not a person. That body has no, all the earth element, water element, the fire element, and the wind elements, which are previously functioning under the force of your emotional, is totally ceased to exist. not existing at all within that body. So now the question is, something leave, therefore, there is no function. This house was so noisy before, during the vacations, people left, now it's very quiet. This house there are, every time people playing music all the time, and during the vacation it's very quiet. So there is no... Yeah.
Yeah, that is what for me is difficult to understand. What is that leaves? Like you said, everything disappears, everything goes back to space, but you said something lives. So what is that something lives?
I think leaves is also leaves is also just the language. Leaves is also a kind of part of the language. This was it left the body. It's now there is no longer activity of the elements, the breathing or the heating or moistures. No longer the activity of that because the energy is no longer part of this body. So now that does not mean there's something, opened the body and came out, oh, I'm going to leave today. So there is no such thing, right? So the settled consciousness, settled energies, is a part of the space, it is a part of the time, it has no physical obstructive nature. So when energy has no physical or no obstructive nature, you cannot say it goes, it travels, it moves, because there is no distance for it.
Space.
Yeah.
There's space, no time.
It's space,
Yeah.
So the physically, I think people always imagine when they say someone died and left, or someone died and goes to next life. People always imagining the same, that you open the door and you just leave from the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I think not necessarily all the time.
Yeah.
So and also you can say, yesterday I fermented the milk. Now the milk has gone. Now yogurt has came. So where did milk go? Right? So milk has to leave. So in order for the yogurt to come. So where did this side or that side from the upper part of the pot? Where did milk go? No. Milk died, therefore it turned into the yogurt. So, but still you can use the language leave and come. Barley seed, processing, and then it ceased to exist, it died, and the sprout came. So where it come from? There's no way it come from. Yeah. So that's the change, turn into something. So the turning into something, everything is leaving its own identity, by death, and turn into something else. So there is language you can use, leave and go and come, but physically there is no body seed going or living or dying. There's no body sprout has ever come from where? Nowhere. So you plant the seed, and through the process, seed has constantly changing, disintegrating, and ceased to exist. And it turned into, with help of the soil and the water and the wind and everything, now it turned into sprout. So this is what I planned, this came. So therefore people use the language, or it came. So, when you use the sprout has came from the seed, so it is not talking about sprout ever exist during the seed. Now before he cannot come, now the sprout has come. That does not mean the sprout that came from the causal time or from the seed. So I think many times people try to understand meaning, meaning from just from the language. That is impossible. So
that can bring confusion.
This is like you live in a very old house, and there's so many leaking all the time. Every time you don't change the roof, you just patch. So language, keep relying on the language is like that. Continuously patching, leaking continuously, But you have to understand what is inside the word. I think sign language and the language, they're almost a sign, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A language is the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any Sanju Sebja Rinpoche, Majebanga, Jeju, Yevanyamba, Mevanya, Kone Kondo Pebbles, Tonya Tawa Rinpoche, Majebanga, Jeju, Yevanyamba, Mevanya, Kone Kondo Pebbles, Pamasim Gentam, Dedan, Denju, Nendotam, Tato Tonga, Sanju Semba Kana Sushu, Tadagunja, Monum Duju, Karija Vubu, Shimas, Pendan Deva, Manu Juve, Jerezama, Tinzinja, Shabe, Sideba, Denju.
May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the point of no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the point of no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all Father and Mother sentient beings have all happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately.
In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains,
you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Ch17 Tenzin-gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you.
Thank you, President.